I felt sad about the Squid Game. I felt like I need to feel these things. They were reflecting of my emotions of things that have happened in my life. I'm happy that these ideas have come up again. It made me think differently about something. It made me remind of something. I'll feel that sadness and I'll let it pass like a wave. It's okay. Like it burns up again like an ember, and you control it. Feel the warmth. And I was saying that, wasn't I? It does matter. It was real. And that's the warmth. And I'll come back to that in just a second. I also watched Moneyball, which is a film about baseball. And that made me cry, or it made me feel emotional. I was eating pizza at the time, and I felt like, oh, this pizza's just like stodgy. It's like it doesn't taste of anything. I'm just sort of fueling myself. I know I've got to eat, so I'm eating. This is depressing, part of depression. And then I said to myself, hang on, wait. This pizza isn't horrible. It's cheesy, or it's not cheesy, it's vegan cheesy, or it's got cheese substitute on it. And I should stop and, try and taste the what kind of cheese substitute. Is it a more parmesan-y cheese, or is it a more cheddar-y? The dough is crispy, and they're doing the mindfulness. I started doing the mindfulness, and suddenly it was a lot better. The pizza was a lot nicer. I was being mindful. And I said to myself, okay, Moneyball's starting to make me feel emotional. Maybe I'm just letting myself get settled into the sofa with the pizza and the emotions. Maybe I'm just wallowing in it. Maybe I need to be more mindful of what I'm actually thinking and feeling, and let these things pass, and not, So I grabbed hold of myself in then. This was key. I did a bit of song practice, and it was awful. This is also key. So I grabbed hold of myself with the mindfulness. I got the guitar and I said, we're going to do some playing the guitar. That's quite a mindful thing. I'm thinking about what I'm doing. But also it's quite an emotional thing that makes me sad sometimes. So it can go either way. And it went badly in that I felt really emotional and I sang really badly. I wasn't doing good singing. I know I can sing a lot better. I felt like I couldn't hear myself properly. It was part of this malaise. It's like this wave cycle of feeling good, feeling down. I was getting a hold of myself and then slipping down again quick. So this is where I wanted to talk about suicidal thoughts. And I didn't feel suicidal, but suicidal thoughts, and I'm going to bring up the old Samaritans again for this one. You can't even see it, can you? Just move it. There you go. Whee. Suicidal thoughts don't have to mean you're buying the pills or tying the rope. How do I explain this? So the songs that I write are personal to me and emotional, but I also feel like as part of my life, it's important that one day I present them in a recorded form so other people can hear them. I would feel sad if I died and all the songs I wrote only existed in me, in my brain, and you could never hear them. You can hear some of them through the YouTube. They exist. Great. YouTube might not live forever. When I'm dead, it might turn off my channel. I don't know. But at least they exist. They're recorded and they're there right now. That's a step I want to make with all of my songs, all the ones I've written. I want all of them, at least in some form, to be on YouTube so they exist. Right. I'm playing these songs and I'm feeling sad and low. I'm thinking, well, how important is that really? Is this song even good enough to record to put onto YouTube? Does it matter if it's not on YouTube? Should I just put down the guitar and not bother practicing anymore? That's depression, isn't it? That's suicidal thoughts. It's not, should I kill myself? But it's, what would life be like if I didn't achieve my goals? What would life be like if I didn't push towards that thing? And the next step to that is, you could think, like, your life, because, when people talk about looking and they're outside themselves in a traumatic situation. Well, sometimes when I'm feeling depressed, or when you're feeling depressed, or when we are feeling depressed, life can feel like a really boring, or like, I watched that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it wasn't a bad film. It was well crafted in ways. There were, things that were interesting to look at, but it was like a boring, awful film that had no point. And I thought that, or it did have a point, but the point wasn't even up my street, Rather have not watched that. I could have turned that off and turned it off early, switched over to something else, maybe just turned off the telly. And that's the suicidal thoughts, isn't it? When you think about your life as like a boring, pointless, day to day, same dinner again, don't like the taste of this anymore, just going to have to eat it. just going to have to eat it should be a phrase, like that we have to, that feels like a phrase that should have been passed down from generation to generation in this country. Oh, I'm not enjoying this. Well, you're just going to have to eat it. We're talking about nihilism. What would it be like to just turn the film off? I need to edit this, so I'm going to have to say this. Sometimes your life feels like a really boring, painful film, and you're watching it and you're just thinking about what would it be like if I just switched this one off. That's suicidal thoughts. And then what I do sometimes, if I'm thinking like that, is I think, what would it be like for the other people who would be in my life, who would be sad if I wasn't here? And I'll explain this as brutally as I can, because I think it's the only way. There's the thing you'd think, they'd be sad. They'd be sad, wouldn't they? Obviously, that's bad. But then the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the negative, the malaise, the thing that's not really you, that can take you down that wrong road, is the bit where you think, but they'd get over it. They'd be sad, but they'd carry on. Sad things happen. You start to write yourself out of that future story, and not just to write yourself out of the script, but to sort of justify to yourself that it wouldn't be that bad, that people would just get on with it. And you know the truth. Do you know the truth? They would get on with it. They wouldn't want to have this thing, It's hard to talk about it in logical ways here, because of course life would go on without you, but that's not like it's better without you. It's not like your reasoning of like, well, it could be that's part. It's not thinking about killing yourself, but it is down that suicidal thought pattern, isn't it? It's an interesting thing to bring out of this. So there's Lifeline in America, there's the Samaritans in the UK. So when I'm thinking about that, I get a hold of myself. I'm like, that's the seed of the weeds that we don't want to have growing. That's the instigation of that. That's the seams that are splitting, isn't it? This is the time to start stitching this back up. I realise this is going to sound so weird now when I say this, but in the same headspace, because this is a fog, a malaise. It's not like that is driving you. It's like that's one of the lights in the distance. It's one of the songs in the trees. It's not the primary driver, but depending on which way you face and which direction you follow, any of these things can become the emergent forces in the mist. I realise I'm so lucky, because when you're depressed, your warm bed or your heated house, it doesn't feel like a super special luxury. And I make sure to thank God for all the, I don't want to say little things, they're big things, the big things. And I thank God for all those things, because without this, I thank God, because without those things, this situation, this malaise, this fog, going through that in a luxury prison. I say prison all the time, a luxury prison. What do you mean luxury prison, you idiot? You can go out. Yeah, I know, but we've been at home because of the COVID, haven't we? And it's not just that. I live in abject luxury compared to some people in the world who are suffering. But it doesn't mean that I can just go out my door and just do what I want. And, the American free land of the free. But, you might get shot down there, and these people might be trying to rob you. And that fella's trying to get you hooked on drugs, and these people want your money for a subscription service for something you're not really going to use. And the land of the free to be coerced and cajoled, and your goals. I want to be a Fortnite player. Well, if you can't even afford the Xbox and you haven't got the time to play, you might have to go and work in McDonald's, mate. Some people were working in McDonald's before they quit and became world championship boxers. I don't, it's a funny world, isn't it? But I know that I call it a luxury prison. It's not a prison. But I know that I live in abject luxury, and how this struggle, not just my struggle, the struggle, would be so much harder, is so much harder for people that don't have a roof over their head or anything like that. So I say a prayer for those people. I realise how lucky I am that I can experience this depression. And this is another aspect of counting my blessings as part of resetting my frame of mind to something more positive, is the feeling, going through the feeling, the depression, going through the feeling of it, looking at it, staring down. I don't want to say things that remind people of suicide, but staring down the barrel, looking at this thing head on, confronting the fears and the hard things. This isn't the first time I've looked at this. This week is not the first time I've looked down, looked into that abyss, stood on the edge of that cliff. That's not the first time. So I'm lucky because I've had that experience before. And so I can say to myself, this time is part of that. Now, next time I feel it, I'm going to be able to refer back to this and say how lucky I was that I felt it, experienced it, and moved forward from it. And then next time, it's another strength, isn't it? It's another strength. So I'm lucky that I felt like that before and expect to again. Yeah, it's made me stronger, hasn't it? It means that I can see it for what it is and not succumb to it. It means that in the mist, when I feel these things, when I'm doing the bad tweets, or when I don't really feel like being on Twitter, my dinner's not tasting like it should, I can actually grab hold of myself in those moments and say, like, hang on, this is part of that, isn't it? That's not an alarm bell or a red flag or, but a marker, a thing that I can say, hang on, I've got experience here. So I'm lucky to have that. And whilst you might not be ready to fight right now, I didn't feel like it last week, at least I'm ready to dig my nails in. We talked about this the week before, didn't we? Digging your nails in and just holding on when the will... There's our weekly if quote, the will that says hold on. At least I'm ready to hold on. Definitely not going to go the other way. I've got experience of this. So I realised this was part of my feeling and my work of working through these feelings, grief and nihilism, despair. Life isn't easy. It's not easy for any of us. It's not supposed to be, is it? So I realised that in the past, sometimes this can be cathartic, but if you leave it for too long, you can end up wallowing in that despair. That nihilism can become your whole existence. That's the depression. So I decided to put down the guitar and move into a different mental space. This is going back to what I was saying a long time ago. I was playing the guitar, I was feeling this thing, wasn't I? I was questioning whether I should even bother recording the songs, whether there's any worth in it, any value. Is life worth living? Well, I'm going to put down the guitar then, if that's what's coming out of that session. Sometimes I don't feel like that. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm Rick Astley. If only I could just hold this singing voice for a live performance just once and record it, or get someone else to sing it and then you could hear the songs. If only I could. Sometimes I feel full of hope that it could be achieved. Not this time. So I put it down, moved into a different mental space, physical and mental space, deliberately. At that time, I played Fortnite with my sister and my friend, and that was okay. I wasn't like, I did say to them at the start of the session, I'm not feeling most, and this is important as well, talking about it. I'm talking about it now, but I said to my friend, my sister, and my friend said, we're going to play Fortnite. I haven't been streaming, I'm not feeling at the best. I just said it. I didn't say this whole thing that I'm doing tonight. Didn't have to unpack all that, but just told them how I was feeling so they could reflect on it and respond to it however they wanted. And it helps, just even if that's my friend Chris said that I could talk to him further about it if I wanted to. I'm doing it now on stream, so I don't want him to feel like, oh, deaf me off for talking about it. I don't talk so easily to people so deeply, and no one does, do they? But he offered it was there. I felt that if I needed to, I could have. So that's important. So yes, that was good. That makes you feel better. Not finished, better, fixed, but slightly better. And if I played Fortnite all night till 11 o'clock, I'd have felt worse. I only did it for a couple of hours before the grind depression kicked in. And then here on the notes. And now I feel better. No, I don't. I don't feel fully fixed, do I? I feel a bit better. I've got some perspective. I know it's part of the cycle. I know that everything comes in waves. You feel these things, you let them go. I know that talking this through with you today, writing these notes, has made me realise that I am going to continue to reduce the mirtazapine. I have not fallen off the path this time. This week's depression, this difficult, because I'm reducing the mirtazapine, because it's getting darker, because life is hard, because my future is uncertain, because there were things in life that maybe I thought I would have achieved by now, not financial, but maybe emotional. Because, and this sounds weird, but because my friend's got a new baby, which is wonderful, and I take a lot of joy in that. But also it makes me reflect that I don't, and maybe I should be hurrying up with that. These sort of natural feelings. This time they have not sunk me, and I've not allowed them to become this cumbersome burden. I'm still in the mist. I can still feel the phase and the fog, but I've determined that I continue to push on, and that the whole point of feeling these depressing feelings is that I can feel them, have a little cry. Oh, that episode was sad, wasn't it? It made me think of Navin. That's sad. Now I can draw a little bow around. It was good that I felt that, because I hadn't faced head down. I hadn't realised head down that the element of deception in this is disjointed now, it doesn't fit here, it fits earlier in the episode, doesn't it? But the element of deception, doing the best thing for the dog. I had to give him some little tablets the vet gave me to make him a bit more drowsy, so that I could get him into the car, to take him to the vet, to have him put down without him, biting the vet essentially. So I did that, and I remember, I didn't realise I was going to be getting into this now, but I remember, you put a little, I want to say toothpaste, it's not, peanut butter. Put a little peanut butter on these tablets and feed them to the dog. And the minute I started doing it was we're not going back from this. You're going to ingest those, and because that is the timer ticking on your drowsiness, I'm going to get you in the car now. And that was reality. And I was betraying him in some way, wasn't I? But not also, I was making it better for him, making it easier for him, making his burden easier to bear. I hadn't really thought that hard about it. I tried not to think about it, to be honest, because it made me sad. But it brought it up in this film, in this piece of media. This concept was brought up. Sorry, there's no big spoiler there. It's a general concept. That's allowed. It was brought up, and it made me relate to this. So I needed to work that through. I needed to shed a tear about that, because that's the honest reality of what happened, and me facing it with some distance and time now, facing it with some knowledge and wisdom. I was able to feel it and let it pass. And that's good, because I should feel it, shouldn't I? Because I'm human, and they're good things to feel, the real things. And so this is what I wanted to bring that back now. When I was thinking, does this matter? Does it matter? When I was playing that song and I was thinking, does it matter if I ever record this song? Should I just give up? That's the extending down that road of suicidal thoughts. If you're not going to bother with the song, why bother getting out of bed? If you're not going to get out of bed, why bother at all? Should I just give up? Well, it mattered, didn't it, that someone took Navin to the vet? It mattered that someone gave Navin a life. Now, it mattered that I did those things. It mattered to him, and it mattered to me. I felt that sadness about his demise, because it was real. Like, if it wasn't real, if it didn't matter, if my songs don't matter, if it doesn't matter if I get out of bed, then I wouldn't feel that, would I? If you're feeling depression, then it proves to you that it matters. It proves to you that it matters. It matters so much that we need to, that we do feel this great burden, because it matters so much. And then it drives us to say, well, I'm going to not have it matter then. I'm not letting it matter. Nothing matters anymore. Chuff it. And I'm not joking about it. I said chuff it. I'm not joking about it. That's part of the mechanics of suicide. Not the only mechanic, not the only thing that goes on, but that's part of it, isn't it? So what I'm here to say is that we can, by opening out that, sometimes when you're playing a computer, I know it's stupid of me to relate it to computer games, but we are on Twitch, aren't we? Sometimes when you're playing a computer game, it's loads of fun until you really understand the mechanics, and then it just kind of isn't the same. The trick, the veil has been lifted, and you can see the trick behind it. So once you've done all your grind, like SimCity might be a good example. Once you've built the whole city and you got there at the end, it's like not as fun as it was at the start when you were struggling with the budget and trying to put your first fire station in. Because now you can see all the mechanics at play and you're a master of all the mechanics. So the veil's been lifted, and it's not as fun to learn and to discover and to trial and to error. So what we've just said there is the learning, the discovery, the trialing, the errors. They're the things that are meaningful and that we enjoy, that we seek fulfillment from the challenge. So if I just had all the money, if I won the lottery and that was it, I don't have to be challenged. It's not. Am I going to be bored? If I'm struggling and life is a challenge and a trial, should I jack it? Is it true to? And this is hard to like hard to say, or to, if you're struggling with things, I'm here telling you they're good for you and that they're part of the things you should enjoy. Learn to love the pain. I'm not being a masochist or a sadist. What I'm saying here is true, though, that those emotions and those feelings are real, and all the other things, therefore, all the joy that Nathan brought me, all the times I felt proud or excited, or when that toy arrived in the post and I opened the box with him and he got it out of the box and we had fun, all those times were real as well, weren't they? They are made more real and important by the truth of the fact that the pain is real too. So it's all inbuilt. It's counterbalanced. You can't have one without the other. You see these things for what they are because of the other. There's Hegelian dialectics, which, like, if something exists, then the opposite exists. So if something is good, therefore something else could be bad, couldn't it? Good and bad are opposites, aren't they? You don't need to explain what bad is. It's the opposite of good. So when you're having these bad times, these difficulties, they prove to you that the good is real and can be found and can be lived and enjoyed. It won't last forever. Everything will pass. Everything's waves. You're going to get these bad feelings too. That's part of the ride. It's part of the ride, isn't it? A roller coaster can be up and down very quick. I don't know. It's part of the ride. It's part of the ride. That's what I'm going to say. Newton's law of motion, yeah. And turns out that Einstein and Newton were completely wrong and they didn't understand dark matter. So all analogies can change.